Fine. So we will continue with the next topic where we are going to discuss about task, process and thread. First we will define what is task. The term task refers to something that needs to be done, right? A job that needs to be done is called as a task. And in the context of the operating system, a task is defined as a program in execution and the related information maintained by the operating system for that particular program, right? So it's a program that may be a program written in some high level language like Java or C, whatever it is, and that needs to be executed. And a task is also known as a job in the operating system context. A program or part of it in execution is also called as a process. The term task, job, process refers to the same entity in the operating system context, and most often they are used interchangeably. Fine. And again, the process, as said, it's a program, right? It's a software written program, and of course it's a execution of that particular program. And a process is also known as an instance of a program execution, right? So there will be multiple programs, and instant of that program is getting executed, and multiple instances of the same program can execute simultaneously, right? So I'll be having the one program, and that program will be executed with a different type of data, right? Already we have discussed about single instruction, single data, multiple instruction, multiple data, and all those things. In a similar way, the same program may be executed as a multiple instances, and a process requires various resources, right? So whenever we want to do a process in a computer, then we need a CPU time for that. Then we need some sort of memory. Again, the memory may be a RAM, ROM, as well as a stack memory, right? And some variables, some IO devices for information exchange, and all these things are actually the requirements for that. And most probably a process is a sequential in execution. So whenever we write a program either in C or Java or whatever high level language, that will be executed sequential. That means line by line. The first line will be executed, then the second line will be, the third line will be. So like that, it will be a sequential execution will be happening there. And the structure of a process. The concept of a process leads to concurrent execution of task and thereby the efficient utilization of the CPU and other system resources. Even though the process is executed sequentially, when the processor, the hardware processor capability increases, something like pseudo parallelism. In that case, actually, you might have heard about a dual core processor, right? In that case, actually, it is having a dual core. Then you might have termed about quad core processor, which is actually having 4 cores, CORES cores, right? So it can do 4 processes simultaneously, some sort of pseudo parallelism we can exhibit. Similarly, there are processes with octa-core. So 8 tasks or 8 processes can be executed simultaneously. That is actually possible there. And some sort of parallelism or some sort of concurrency can be experienced when you are having multi-core processes. And the concurrent execution is achieved through sharing of the CPU among the processes. And a process mimics a processor in properties and holds a set of registers, process status. So whenever there is a process in the processor, then it will be having some data in set of registers, and it will be having a status. Already we discussed about whether the process is ready to execute it or waiting for some inputs or it's over, completed, right? So something, there will be a status, and there will be a program counter most probably which will be holding the address of the next executable instruction, right? So which instruction need to be executed next. So where that address is, where that instruction is stored, that address will be stored in the program counter. And of course, a stack memory, right, for sharing the or storing the local variables associated with that. And this can be, of course, visualized here in this case, right? So a process will be having a stack memory with a stack pointer. There will be working registers. Maybe in the ARM Cortex M3 we have studied about R0 to R14 or R15, different registers. Then there will be some status register which denotes the status of that execution. The program counter already holds the address of the next executable instruction. So all these things will be having in the code memory corresponding to the process. And a process which inherits all the properties of the CPU can be considered as a virtual processor, awaiting its turn to have its properties switched on to the physical processor. So whenever the task is ready, so it should be tuned according to the actual hardware CPU that is available or that will be executed. So in that case, we can call it as a virtual processor, so which is ready to run in any processor, right? So that whenever the physical process is available, this can be executed in that processor. And when the process gets its turn, its registers and program counter register becomes mapped to the physical registers of the CPU, right? And the structure of a process, I think here we can see how the memory will be there for a process. Already we have discussed about 3 types of memory. One is a code memory, then data memory, then stack memory. So the code memory is useful for storing the program code, right, where it will be stored. That is the instructions where they will be stored. And the data memory, where the data that is useful for that execution is stored. And the stack memory, again, there may be a user stack memory or the program stack memory, and which will be holding some temporary values that is given by that execution of the program, right? So normally the data memory will be initialized with the lowest value. Say for example, if my data memory starts from 4000 to 4100, right, assume in hexadecimals, then my data memory will be starting from 4000, the data will be piled up, right? Of course, it's a random access memory, you can use it, no issues. But in the case of stack memory, already we discussed when we discussed about this ARM Cortex M3, the stack memory will be initialized with the maximum address plus 1th location, right? So in that case, actually what happens, whenever your data need to be stored, first a value will be decremented and then the data will be pushed into that memory, right? Say for example, if the stack memory is initialized with the 4000, the first data can be stored from 3FFF in terms of hexadecimals, right? And the memory value will be decremented, right? So the next value will be stored in 3FFE, then the next value will be stored in 3FFD, then 3FFC, something like that. So the stack memory will be decremented and the normal data memory is incremented, or it will be random accessing, and of course there will be a code memory will be available here. And then the process states and state transition. So here actually what we are going to see is, what about the process status, right? So the process may be execution completed. There is a newly created process. When the task is freshly, it is created fresh. And then the last stage is going to be the process is completed. So from this created to completed, this process is actually known as the process life cycle, right? When the process is created till the process gets completed, this process, this time is actually called as a process life cycle. And the various status through which a process traverses through during the process life cycle indicates the current status of the process. Of course, it will be crossing through various stages. And moving from one stage to another stage is actually called as state transition. I think this diagram will help you to understand this. So here actually you can see it denotes a process states and the state transition, right? So initially actually the process is created. Right, so the process created in the sense it is stored in the memory, right, or the program is done and it's ready for compilation. Then it will come to a state where all the data are stored, and now it will be having all the variables, all the data that's available. Now it is ready for running or ready for execution, we can say, right? And from there it can move on to the running state, right, where the program is executed. And suppose if there are any interrupts, again it will come back to ready state. This is one way of doing it. On the left hand side you can see there is a block called, or there is a state called blocked. When the process is running, sometimes it may need some inputs from the external peripheral, or it may be data, it may be taken from data from the user. And in those cases, without the data the process cannot run. So the state will be moving from running to blocked state. And once the data is received either from the peripheral or the user, again that will move on to ready state, and again it will come to the running state. And once this process is completed and the task is completed, then it will be coming into the completed state, right? So I think these are all the 5 states available. So when the process is created, right, so the process is ready, and then the process running, the process blocked, and the process completed. So these are all the 5 states that are available here. And you can see there are some arrow marks, and each and every arrow mark will be having what is actually the transition, right? Say for example, from running to blocked, you can see the transitions are waiting for IO. So some input is needed from IO process. or waiting for some shared resources. I need some more memory for executing the task. In that case, my running process will move into the blocked state. So when the data has arrived or when that resources is available, then again the process will move on to from blocked state to the ready state, right? So this is actually the state transition. The state at which a process is being created is referred as created state. Of course, we have seen that. And then in that case, actually no resources will be allocated, right? So the process is there, but no resources will be allocated at this point of time. And then the state where the process is inserted into the memory. So the process is read into the RAM memory and is ready for execution and ready for the processor time. So in that case, it is ready for execution state. And of course, there will be a ready list. So there may be more than one processes will be ready for execution, and based on the priority, some process will be allocated to the processor. And the state where the source code instructions corresponding to the process is being executed is called a running state, right? I think this is the execution state. And again, blocked state or wait state when it needs some IO or some data from the user. In that case, it will be there, the blocked state. And when the process is completed, it will be moving on to the completed state. And then we will discuss about this process management. So the process management involves the creation of processes, the setting up the memory space so that the temporary variables can be stored and can be protected, then loading the processor code into the memory space, then allocating the system resources, then setting up the process control block. Already we discussed about the task control block, like so a similar thing, process control block, and then process termination or deletion. So these are all the things available for the process management. Now we will discuss about different threads. What is actually a thread? A thread is a primitive that can execute a code. A thread is a single sequential flow of control within a process, right? So we will be having a process, and this process may have one or more threads, right? The total process may be considered as a one thread, or it may even have some more process, right? Say for example, like writing an assignment, right? So suppose if you have to write some 3 pages of assignment. The first page you have to write some theory, the second page you have to draw a diagram, and the third page you have to write a program referring some book. So in that case, what you can do is, in a single thread, what you can do is, first you will write the theory, then second page you will be writing drawing the image, and in the third page you will be referring the thing and you will be writing the program code. So in that case, it is called as a single thread. Now what you can do is, you can do it in a multiple thread, that is, you can do it in a 3 thread. What does it mean? You have written some off page in the first page, right? Then you went to started the diagram. Then when the diagram is 50% complete, you stopped there. Again you went to the third page where you referred and start writing the code. Again, when the 50% of the code is written, again you come back to the first page and complete the remaining page. Then you go to the second page, complete the diagram. Then you go to the third page, complete the program or code. Like that, you can have it more than one thread in a single process. And of course, a process can have many threads of execution. And the different threads which are part of a process share the same address space, meaning they share the data memory, code memory, and the heap memory area. Threads maintain their own thread status, right, and the CPU register values and the program counter and the stack. So each and every thread will be having its own CPU register values and the program counter and the stack memory values. The memory model for a process and its associated threads are given in the figure here. Right, so here actually this is the stack memory for a process, and here it will be having the stack memory for thread 1, stack memory for thread 2, right, and the data memory and code memory may be common for the process. And the concept of multi-threading, right? So a process or task in embedded application may be complex or lengthy one, and it may contain various sub-operations like getting input from IO devices connected to the processor, performing some internal calculations or updating some IO devices, etc. And if all the sub-functions of a task are executed in sequence, the CPU utilization may not be efficient. So in some cases, for some instructions, I need some external inputs which is not ready. So the CPU has to wait till the data arrives, right? Suppose if it needs some user ID, some user data, and the user is not providing the